All right, ladies and gentlemen, the 0 people who know who I am, my name is Jesper MMA. This is my first video on this channel where I'm going to be breaking down UFC 311, Makhachev versus Tsarukyan 2. I've never done this before, so if it's a little rough around the edges, if the acoustics suck, if my pacing's off, any and all technical difficulties, please bear with me. This might suck dick and balls, but I wanted to try it out, so all right. Okay, so let's start with the first fight on the card. That's going to be Ulanbekov versus Clayton Carpenter. We got Ulanbekov here with 15-2-0. Clayton with undefeated with 8 straight wins. So both coming off of wins, both coming off a couple wins actually. For this one, I'm going to be going with Ulanbekov. I just think he's got more physical advantages. He's taller. He's got a longer reach. In fact, that 5'7" height measurement right there seems like kind of bullshit. To me, from what I've seen, it looks like the same height as Islam Makhachev, so I don't know what they're talking about there. But either way, longer, rangier, taller. I think he's better pretty much everywhere. Clayton Carpenter is very aggressive, very game. He has what I would call resting murderer face. From what I've seen from his 2 UFC fights, he's like a powder keg ready to explode. And he has some excellent grappling, but striking leaves something to be desired, whereas Ulanbekov is pretty much good everywhere. I don't really see how Clayton Carpenter can get this one done. Maybe he can bulldoze him, but I just don't see it. I got Ulanbekov probably by decision. Yeah, that's how I see that one going. Okay. Next up, we got Ricky Turcios versus Bernardo Sopaj. I think it's Sopaj. Both coming off of losses. Sopaj actually hasn't fought in almost a year. He was at the receiving end of, like, I want to say it was a contender at least for knockout of the year against Vinicius Oliveira. Before that happened, though, he was kind of, I don't want to say piecing up Oliveira, but he was doing very well in that first round, and for most of the second round, he looked very skilled, very explosive, and that was on short notice, I believe. And Ricky Turcios coming off of that loss to fairly recently, actually, against Raul Rosas Jr., where he didn't really have much of anything to offer him. Some, aggressive kicks, very snappy, but there's not much going on in the boxing with this guy. Bernardo Sopaj was able to hang on the feet with Vinicius Oliveira in the striking and the grappling. So I just think he's better everywhere. I mean, Ricky Turcios is bigger. He has a longer reach. He's taller, but I don't really think that's going to do much of anything in this matchup. I don't rate Ricky Turcios that high, to be honest. I don't know. Yeah, I think I got Sopaj getting this one done probably by, I'm going to go by submission or really all of the above, but I'd say by submission or a pretty dominant, obvious decision, 30-27. Okay, next fight, we got Rinya Nakamura versus Gafurov. I'm going to go Rinya Nakamura on this one. I know I got 3 heavy favorites in a row. I'm not going to keep that going the entire fight card, don't worry. But, yeah, I mean, undefeated, insane grappling, like crazy scrambles, dangerous submission attempts. He never stops moving, decent on the feet. He is going up against Gafurov, who doesn't really have too much here, I don't think. I don't see the, he's not Dagestani, but he, that certain level of grappling from that part of the world, I don't see that playing much of a role in this fight. I got Rinya Nakamura pretty much by whatever he wants. I don't dislike Gafurov. I think he's game. I think he has some awesome fights on his record. If you want to check, if it lets me, it was his fight against John Castaneda, which was a banger. He ended up losing that fight, but great scrap, and then gets finished by Seed Nurmagomedov. Not too bad. Has 1 win against Kang, but nothing really to write home about. I'm gonna go Rinya Nakamura. I honestly by submission, I would say. He's coming off of he's coming off a couple decisions actually. He hasn't submitted anyone in a while. I would actually. Gafurov is probably good enough to not get submitted. Let's say by decision for Rinya Nakamura. Okay, let's go on to the next one. I've kind of flip-flopped on this one. I was initially going to go with Perez. Maybe... I don't know. It's a case of one's much better at grappling, one's much better at striking. However, I do think that Carl Rosa probably can mitigate the amount of grappling. I just think she has better takedown defense than people that Eileen has beat in the past. I think she's overall better. It's a big jump up in competition. They're about the same size, but Carl Rosa just has really nice kickboxing, really like sharp knees, good in the clinch, good at range. You know, you see a lot of, I hate to say this, but you see a lot of women's MMA fights where they're kind of fighting out of range, throwing, you know, 1-2s into the ether and they're not really going anywhere. But Carl Rosa actually can put a hurting on some people. So I think she'll be able to stuff the takedowns and bring it to Eileen Perez. That's what I would say. All right, next one. So this one was Zachary Reese versus Cedric Dumas. Is this Cedric? Cedricus? I don't know. But yeah, Zachary Reese is coming off of, I believe, that first round knockout, or the knockout in the first 20 seconds. No, he's not. That was actually the fight before that. He's coming off of a decision win over Daniel Medina. Before that, he had that 20-second KO over Julian Marquez. And before that, he was unfortunately at the receiving end of a slam KO by Cody Brundage, where he was basically going for a submission, and Cody picked him up and knocked his lights out with the floor. So, you know, he had a bit of hype coming into the UFC. I can see why he's dangerous in terms of his submission attempts, but also on the feet he has some knockouts. If it was him against Cedric Dumas, I'm not really sure. I might go. I'd probably go with Zacharias either way. This Azamat Bekoev guy, I watched some tape, and I don't really see too much that would give him issues. He's a good deal shorter. I've just seen some kind of tepid striking battles with Bekoev. Maybe I'm an idiot. I didn't have enough time to do as much research as I would like on this guy, but I don't really know as much about him. But I'm kind of tepidly gonna go with Zacharias. I'm not very confident in this one. I think if you're gonna pick this Azamat Bekoev guy, I would not bet on him. I probably wouldn't bet on Zach either. You just don't really know what you're gonna get with this one. I am gonna go with Zachary Reese. That's a weird one. Okay, next one is a great matchup. So we have Grant Dawson versus Carlos Diego Ferreira. This is the first one where I'm going to go against the grain here. I know a lot of people are picking Grant Dawson. I think if you go on Tapology, it's like 90% Grant Dawson or something. Like everyone's going with this guy. I don't know. I like Grant Dawson. I think he's talented. He's wickedly talented. He's in the past maybe not been the most exciting fighter. I did like his most recent performance. It was a lot more explosive and obviously got the TKO victory. I just don't think against Carlos Diego Ferreira, like, I know this might sound crazy. I think Ferreira's got this one. I just think he has insane scrambles. He's coming off of 2 great wins. First of all, KO over Michael Johnson, so he has pop in his hands. Or maybe not pop, let's say thudding power in his hands. He's more plotty, more thuddy with his striking, and absolutely beating the brakes off of Mateusz Szrambecki. And I just think usually Grant Dawson's style of to a minute of striking and then initiating takedowns, getting them, and then basically crawling all over people like Spider-Man, I don't think he's going to be able to do that with Diego Ferreira. I just don't see. Diego's scrambles are too good. He's too well-rounded everywhere. He's constantly throwing up submission attempts and fighting off the back and with really nice reversals. And I think he's way more dangerous on the feet. And so I know he's a lot older, but you wouldn't be able to fucking tell from that last performance. You really wouldn't. If I didn't tell you he was 39 in that fight, I mean, he looked fantastic for a 39-year-old. And again, that was only last May, I believe. So with this one, I'm going to pick Diego Ferreira to pull off the upset. He's not a crazy underdog. You know, I think people, they're believing in this guy again. He was ranked once upon a time. He doesn't have a crazy amount of hype behind him, but he's got some momentum right now, and Grant Dawson's coming off a couple wins as well. But I just don't see Grant Dawson going in there and smudging Diego Ferreira into the ground. I just don't see it. So I'm going to go Diego Ferreira. Method of victory. He could catch Grant Dawson. He could catch him. I don't know if he submits him. You know, screw it. I'm going to say Diego Ferreira catches Grant Dawson. Fuck it. Let's go for it. All right. All right, so I for some reason I had to cut a part out. I'm trying to figure out how to open this, but it's not letting me. I guess there are just no stats to show. It lets me click on the other ones. It just does not let me click on this one. So we got Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elekana. It was supposed to be Bogdan Guskov versus Johnny Walker, but Johnny pulled out with a pretty bad injury, I think. So either way, I was gonna pick Bogdan anyway. He's not the most technical, but he's coming off a couple wins. Just came off a knockout win over Ryan Spann, and he has a lot of knockouts on his record, I believe. And it's not, again, not the prettiest thing to watch, but he hits like a freight train. And Johnny Walker, being as chinny as he is, I mean, there's only one way that was going to go. So I'm glad Johnny pulled out, get some time to recover, because that would have been bad. Billy Elekana, he was previously on the PFL, and I watched a couple of his fights, and he's a little slicker on the feet, and he has some good takedown defense and some decent finishing instinct. But I think given the short notice and again, not seeing anything, he's not like a submission savant. He's not carrying crazy KO power, and he's not significantly bigger than Bogdan Guskov. I'm just not seeing anything that makes me think that he could come in on short notice and beat someone who himself has a bit of momentum right now. Bogdan's looking pretty good. So yeah, I'm gonna go Bogdan Guskov. I think he can probably knock him out. I'm gonna say that. Bogdan has some heavy hands. All right, this one will actually let me pull the fighters up. All right, next up we got Jelton Almeida versus Sergey Spivac. Jelton Almeida is coming off of a bounce back first round submission over Alexander Romanov after getting what someone called fraud checked by Curtis Blades. I wouldn't use that term, but he definitely... Anyway, he's going up against Sergey Spivac, and who himself... What has Sergey Spivac done recently? I don't think he's fought since... Okay, so he fought Marcin Tybura, and he got a first-round submission. Good for him. So they're actually both coming off a first-round submission. That's good matchmaking. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, similar sizes. Spivac's a little chunkier. Not fat, but, chunkier. He's more built for the weight class. But yeah, this one's pretty easy for me. Jelton Almeida. Jelton Almeida probably... I don't know if he can submit Sergey Spivac. Maybe by decision. Let's say that. Okay, moving on. And this one's a no-brainer. Barcelos isn't bad. He's certainly not. He's very dangerous and quick on the feet. Has some thudding power. He has... I guess he could catch Peyton Talbott with something, but Talbott's he's just on another level, man. He really... Like the Sean O'Malley comparisons, not just with, the hairstyle and the way he looks and all that, but I think they're valid in terms of just how he's dispatching of these dangerous strikers and making it look like they shouldn't even be in there with him. Peyton Talbott he's such a huge favorite that it's not even worth betting on him, but I'm going to go with him to win this one, probably by knockout. I mean, let's be real. Not like he doesn't have one hitter quitter power, but probably TKO up against the fence or something like that. Peyton Talbott's the real deal. There's not even much to be said there. I would like a ranked opponent for him after this. Okay, next one, Kevin Holland versus Reinier de Ridder. I'm going to go against the grain on this one as well. Well, actually, I say that, but it's a pickup. It's not even a... I thought Kevin Holland would be the underdog because, this is a former champ, former double champ at one in Reinier de Ridder. But he is coming off a win. Kevin's coming off a loss. An unfortunate doctor stoppage because he popped a rib or something like that. And Reinier de Ridder came off of a hard-fought victory over Gerald Meerschaert. But to be, Gerald Meerschaert's no slouch, but he is kind of a litmus test to see if you can make it with the elites in the middleweight division, and Reinier didn't really look as impressive as I was hoping he would. He looked kind of slow on the feet. Striking's never been his strong suit, from what I've seen, but even in the grappling, it just nothing spectacular. It looked like he was kind of, I don't know. Even from what I've seen from his one championship days, he looked a lot slower in there, and a lot less dangerous. So I don't know what that was about. Maybe he'll come out here looking a lot more lean and more athletic and more spark in his punches. But from what I've seen, I just feel like Kevin Holland is good enough to beat a certain kind of fighter. A certain level. He's not, if you're good enough to get in the top 15 at welterweight, the weight class below, and lose a split decision to Jack Della Maddalena and, you know, lose against someone as weird and elusive as MVP. That's like nothing to sneer at. I'm not even really sure why he's going up to middleweight. I think he's better at welterweight. But, you know, if you're good enough to hang with those guys down there, I think you can beat someone who's, again, I don't want to use MMA math, but going tit for tat with Gerald Meerschaert and it being difficult. Now there is the question of Kevin Holland being kind of shit in the wrestling, and the not the grappling necessarily, but the wrestling. But you know, I don't know. I just think he's going to be able to catch him. I know this might not be the most intelligent pick, but I think Kevin Holland doesn't usually go on skids. I think he might turn this around and catch Reinier de Ridder coming in. It's going to be really good on his record to have a former double champ on there. So yeah, I'm going to go with Kevin Holland. Next one, we got Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. I'm going to go Renato Moicano. I think that's what most people are doing. It's not a heavy favorite, you know, a slight favorite. I would not be surprised if Beneil wins, though. I think the only reason, I think they're pretty similar to each other, similar size, similar skill set. Both grapplers with, you know, decent striking on the feet, some power. Around the same level of skill, I would say. Beneil coming off of a year layoff after 2 bad first round knockouts. So, whereas Renato Moicano is coming off of 3 wins in 2024 that were pretty dominant. Well, I won't say dominant. They were good wins in 2024. And I just feel like Beneil could win this with the time off and recovering from the knockouts. He totally could upset the hype train and stop Moicano in his tracks. Catch him with something coming in, but I think this is going to be a really close fought, hard fought, back and forth of scrambles, and I don't know that Moicano has the kind of power to like put Beneil out on the feet. Vice versa, Dariush totally could starch Moicano, but I think I see this one going to a pretty grueling decision, and I'm probably going to go with Renato Moicano by 29-28. That's what I would say. I don't think he submits Beneil. I don't think he knocks him out. I'm going to go 29-28, something like that. All right. Now we have the feature fight of the evening. We got Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. And as the odds would suggest, I'm not the most confident in this, but I'm not that unconfident either. It's not like it's a lock. I could see it going the other way, but I'm going to go Jamal Hill to probably catch and finish Yuri Prochazka. My cat's destroying my chair. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. But yeah, I think Jamal Hill, he's got a bad rap for being, you know, what the MMA community would call salty and being a bit of a sore loser and not accepting the Alex Pereira defeat, which, you know, I understand, but the guy is legit. He is good. He's got power. He's got really good boxing. He's just good everywhere pretty much, and he keeps it simple, keeps it fundamental, whereas Yuri Prochazka does nothing simple. It is completely balls to the wall, weird dipping head movement and hands low and stance switches at a weird time, and that works on some people. I just think Jamal Hill's good enough to catch him coming in with something and probably flatline him. It's gonna suck. I really, after this, seriously, can we stop giving Yuri Prochazka like top level talent? Like, let him build a bit of a win streak, have him fight down the rankings, collect a few skulls before we throw him back in there and try and do a #1 contender fight again. Because there's not, in a million years, he's not beating Alex Pereira. I'm sorry. So yeah, I'm going to go Jamal Hill on that one. All right. Co-main event of the evening, bantamweight title fight. We got Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. I think most people would probably agree with what I'm about to say. I'm going to go with Umar upsetting the apple cart and taking the belt off of Merab Dvalishvili. I just think he's better everywhere. You know, I think his... First of all, people need to stop calling Umar Nurmagomedov boring, because he's actually really exciting. He was just kind of under the radar and had a bit of a low profile for a while because from what I would assume is people didn't want to fight him, so he had to fight lesser known competition. Kind of similar to the deal with Shavkat Rakhmonov for the longest time, or Hamzat. Just one of these dudes is a nightmare matchup for everyone, pretty much. I mean, like, the grappling, it's Dagestani grappling at its finest, but he also has really good striking. I mean, he schooled Corey Sandhagen on the feet. Who does that? Like, that's insane. So, I don't think, like, when I'm picturing this matchup, I don't think that Merab is going to be able to do what he normally does to people. You know, like, when Merab puts a pace on someone with his unreal level of cardio, it's like, even if he isn't better in the grappling, he isn't better in the wrestling, he isn't better on the feet, he just does not stop coming forward and spamming takedowns. And so, unless you're able to match him in the grappling and you're not afraid of it, you're thinking about that takedown constantly, and it makes you tentative. I think that's what happened with Sean O'Malley. Even though Petr Yan was able to stuff most of them, he couldn't get anything going because he didn't stop. But I don't think Umar is going to be afraid of the takedown. I don't think that's going to be an issue for him. The way I see it, anything Merab can do, Umar can do better. And I think he'll be a more exciting champion. Honestly, I think Umar has a more fan-friendly style than people give him credit for. I don't dislike Merab. I like him as a guy, but I don't really have any bias in this one. I wouldn't be upset either way, whoever becomes champ. I just think, in my opinion, Umar is going to kind of whoop him a little bit. I think maybe Merab could steal a couple rounds, but I think this probably goes to a decision. I would say decision to Umar Nurmagomedov, probably taking 3 out of the 5 rounds, maybe taking 4 of them, something like that. I'm gonna go Umar. All right, main event of the evening: Islam Makhachev takes on Arman Tsarukyan for the second time. Last time they fought, it was Arman's debut, and it was a lot more competitive than people thought it would be. You know, Islam's always been the boogeyman pretty much, and for Arman to go in there and make it that close and that contentious was really impressive at the time. And I'm a fan of both of these dudes. I don't really have a preference here. I'm completely unbiased. And it's tough because, I want to say it's tough. Both guys are better than when they fought originally, and Arman definitely has been in top form. Close decision to Charles Oliveira, knocking the dog shit out of Beneil Dariush and beating, people don't talk about this one often, but he TKO Joel Alvarez a while ago. He's the real deal for sure. He's definitely the number 2, but that's it. I think he's the number 2. I don't see him beating Islam. I just don't. I don't see anyone beating Islam. I don't see it, unless it's like Islam moves up to middleweight and they're too big for him, or maybe if Topuria moves up and carries that power with him, I could see that maybe. But Arman he has excellent striking on the feet, but despite that Dariush knockout where he was a bit softened up, I think, by the Oliveira one before, not too much power in his hands. It's enough. He doesn't have pillow punches, but I don't think he has enough to keep Islam Makhachev that honest. And Islam is no slouch on the feet either, and so I think I don't think it's impossible that Arman Tsarukyan could win this one, but I think it's a bit of a long shot. I'm gonna go Islam Makhachev, probably by decision as well. I think they're good enough to cancel each other out in a lot of ways. I just think Islam's going to be able to, end up in the right positions, land enough strikes, and very methodically take this fight out of Arman's hands. I think it's going to be a great fight, though. Like, great scrambles on the ground. Same with the co-main, to be honest. We're going to see a really good, full mixed martial arts showcase here of striking from the two of them, and grappling, and clinching, and trips, and submission attempts, and I think it's going to be a great fight, but I got Islam Makhachev winning that fight most, I don't want to say 10 out of 10 times, 6 or 7 out of 10 times. Arman could do it, but I think Islam's got this one, and I think he will retain. And at this point, if Islam Makhachev wins, I wouldn't be upset at a double champ fight. I think a lot of fighters try to jump at this too soon, but I mean, really, who else is there for Islam if he beats this dude? I don't know. Anyway, this has been Jesper MMA. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.